Apparently, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un wants U.S. President Barack Obama to call him. At least that's the message that former NBA star Dennis Rodman brought back after being the first American to publicly visit the DPRK since its new leadership took over. Instead, what he wants is a call from President Obama. The athletes pointed out that since both state leaders are big fans of basketball, the sport could provide a starting point for diplomatic talks. Rodman's visit was not organized by the State Department, who has criticized North Korea for wining and dining Rodman while its own people go hungry. Kim is regarded as one of the world's most oppressive leaders, running prison camps and allowing his people to starve. The young leader has also defied UN sanctions and continued to develop North Korea's nuclear arms and missile programs. During his stay, Rodman watched a basketball game with Kim and drank and dined on sushi with him as well. The visit also concluded ice skating and an aquarium visit. And when speaking of Kim, Rodman noted that the authoritarian leader loved power and control, but also said that he loved his new friend Kim, who is, quote, awesome. Now, Rodman explained his surprising comments by saying that while he does not condone what Kim does, the North Korea leader is his friend and thus deserving of his love. Now, on his Twitter account, Rodman tweeted that he was, quote, not a politician. Kim Jong-un, North Korean people are basketball fans. I love everyone, period. End of story. And now let's see what Chinese net users are saying about Rodman's basketball diplomacy and how it compares with China's infamous ping pong diplomacy of the 1970s.
I think Kim Jong-un better call Obama first to show his sincerity. I don't know if you could call it basketball diplomacy. It's not even backed by the U.S. government. It's simply an individual visit. If this so-called basketball diplomacy succeeds, I think Rodman deserves the Nobel Prize. Maybe he could even become the next president of the United States. Other than North Korea, the people of Libya, Afghanistan, and Iraq are also suffering and starving. I think the Americans need to focus more on their roles in these countries instead. Are the North Koreans copying China's ping pong diplomacy of the 1970s? I wonder if the DPRK will also carry out a reform and an opening up policy like China did in the late 1970s.
Ping pong diplomacy refers to the exchange of table tennis players between the United States and the People's Republic of China in 1971. The event marked a thaw in U.S.-China relations that paved the way for a visit to Beijing by President Richard Nixon. In April of 1971, the American ping pong team in Japan for the 31st World Table Tennis Championships received a surprise invitation from their Chinese colleagues for an all-expense-paid visit to the People's Republic. And 3 days later, 9 players, 4 officials, and 2 spouses stepped across a bridge from Hong Kong to the Chinese mainland. Now, they were the first group of Americans allowed into China since the communist takeover in 1949. 5 American journalists were also invited to cover the team's visit. The American public was thus able to follow the daily progress of the visit in newspapers and on television. Now, while the American players lost their exhibition matches with their hosts, they enjoyed tours of the Great Wall and Summer Palace. At the end of the visit, Premier Zhou Enlai told the table tennis team at a farewell banquet that they had helped to open a new chapter in the relations of the American and Chinese people. He also extended an invitation for more American journalists to visit China. Now, that same day, the U.S. announced plans to remove a 20-year embargo on trade with China. Perhaps the success of ping pong diplomacy was what Rodman had on his mind when he visited the DPRK. But what exactly was the legacy of his visit? Well, some Chinese Weibo users weighed in.
I agree with the Americans. Only a country that respects its people first can become strong in the world. I can't believe the State Department is complaining about Kim treating Rodman to a fancy dinner. In Chinese culture, too, treating guests with good food shows hospitality and respect. Maybe cultural beliefs concerning dining are different in the U.S. There will always be critics, but I think what Rodman did was admirable. Individual actions can really have an effect on the course of international events. Kim Jong-un's remarks indicate his political wisdom. Peace is indeed better than war.
Unlike ping-pong diplomacy, Rodman's visit was not backed by the highest levels of government in the U.S. Now, neither the State Department nor the Obama administration has announced plans to communicate with Rodman after the visit. And although the cultural exchange may not have changed U.S.-DPRK relationships in a significant way, it certainly did create an unlikely friendship between a state leader and a basketball star.